All right, we're live. Yay! Welcome to another episode on Genealogy TV. If you are new here and this is your first time visiting Genealogy TV, my name is Connie Knox. I am a lifelong genealogist here to help you go further, faster, and factually with your family research. So a little teaser about today. Today we are going to talk about some of the updates on Ancestry.com. There's just some clarifications about some of the updates because in a couple of the past episodes, I made a comment about talking to Ancestry on a call, and they had made a reference to something that was being worked on, but I wanted some more clarification. So I have that clarification for you today. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to, if you're on live, hey, Deb, nice to see you. If you want to ask any questions, just put hashtag Q before your question. It helps me find them faster. Hey, Linda. And so today also we're going to be talking about reasonably exhaustive research and what exactly does that mean? Okay. And we're going to, oh, this is a good one. We are going to announce the contest winners. For the there's two winners for the gift certificate to the Salt Lake Institute of Genealogy. And we'll announce that a little bit toward the end. I do have a couple book reviews I just wanted to announce really fast. And just some updates on what's coming up on Genealogy TV. Deb, you're going to definitely be interested in that. I'm super excited to do another live show. I really want to do more of these. In fact, it's one of my goals. One of my written goals is, hey, Karen, good to see you. One of my goals is to do more of these live shows. Well, right now, I can do it with a webcam. That's great. That's awesome. And so my goal is to save up enough money to get the software so that I can share my screen and do the lower thirds and actually have a guest on the show as well. So that is part of my future goals. If you want to help out with that, feel free. You can hit the super chat here in the window if you want, or you can jump over to patreon.com/genealogy TV if you want to help out there. I really appreciate all the patrons and all the donations that I've been seeing come in. So I really, really appreciate it. Okay, so first things first, I see you all saying hello. I would love for anybody that's on already to go ahead and jump on the chat window and say hello and where are you watching from? It's always fun to watch. I've been getting viewers from all around the world. Gosh. New Zealand and Kuwait and a lot from Canada and the UK and, of course, across the United States. So welcome, everybody. Long Island, New York, Karen. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the support. This is really cool. Nevada, Elko, Nevada. Becky, welcome. Deb, Colorado. Wonderful, wonderful. Oh, hello from Ohio. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to jump into this here right now regarding the ancestry updates, because I know that's what everybody wants to hear about as well. I'm trying to look around my camera to see everybody. Texas, Gloria from Texas, Irene from Florida. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for the smiley face. I love it. Okay, so the ancestry updates. The other day on a previous episode, we talked about the new hinting features, the hint evaluation features, and the hint inventory management tool. And I said on the video, I said that I was going to get some clarification about what they exactly meant by hint inventory management because I was not real clear. Hey, Karen from Arkansas and Judy from Missouri. Welcome, welcome. Gosh, it's fun. All right, I love it. So the hint evaluation tool, if you are an Ancestry user and you go and you click on the little leaf, and on the leaf, you accept or decline what that hint is or what that tool is, you're going to get a choice. And the choice would be something like it's basically saying, why did you accept this, or why did you deny this? And it's got a couple answers that are pre-populated. And one is like, the name is right, the place is right, the relationships are right. And so what that's doing is really important, is that it is helping. Okay, so you've got a person, you've got a record, and you say, this is the right record, and this is why it's the right record to this person. So now Ancestry is going, aha, okay, so now they're getting a little bit more evidence, and they're saying, okay, now I'm going to hint that up to more people, and now Ancestry is going to have to do a better job of providing the right hints to the right people. So that's the hint evaluation tool, which is out for everybody now. It's here's the exact answer that he said. He said, users opt in through the ancestry.com/beta. You can also get to that, by the way, at the top of the screen where it says extras, the tab at the very top where it says extras, and then you go all the way down to the bottom and it says Ancestry Lab. You click on that and you can opt in there, or you can actually opt in from the hint screen. There's a little on-off button. And so, hey, Sue from West Virginia. Welcome, welcome. So you can then take a look at the hints. The Ancestry is marrying that stuff. It's helping their algorithms further the hinting features. Now, the hint inventory management tool that I was talking about, I needed more clarification. They wrote me back, and here's exactly what they said. They said, currently only part of the test group, if the user specifically asks to be, and it says we're at 50% of traffic to the site. So if you've asked to be a part of this test group, I guess, it will regenerate hints to the person when a change or edit has been made. So basically what they're doing is so you could go in and you could clear out all your hints, right? You could go in and go like, there's 5 hints in my ancestry, this person in my ancestry tree. So you go through and you make all these yes, no, or you've modified some data in the person's profile. It's going to regenerate hints from the algorithms that Ancestry has. Now, this is still in beta, and only about half of the membership have access to this right now. I know you're going to ask me, how can I get access to that? I do not have the answer to that right now, but I do know that this is something that is also in beta. But this is only a good thing, because the more that we give feedback to Ancestry about the data that we're finding, whether it's correct, think about it too. This is making us analyze the data a little bit deeper. Yes, the people are in the right place at the right time. And you can also say, when you ignore it or you say maybe on those hints, it also has, why did you decline this? It's the wrong person, it's the wrong dates. And so that's also telling Ancestry, okay, this person believes that, that they are not the right person. So it's only helping the algorithm. I'm going to leave you. In fact, I could paste it in here right now. But in the show notes, there is a list to the previous episodes that I'm talking about. This is the entire playlist. And for those who are watching on the replay, it's also in the show notes. And eventually, sometime this weekend, I'll try and get it up on the genealogytv.org, which is the website that complements this if you're new here. Thank you so much, Deb. I have it displayed. Also answer the questions. Wonderful. Thank you. All right. So I do. One break just for a second. Take a sip of water here. I'm curious to know if you're using, and feel free to jump in on the chat. Eileen from Florida, welcome. I didn't see you before. Are you using Family Search too? Ancestry is not the only game in town, and Family Search is free, and there's a ton of records. And one of the reasons why I mention that is because Family Search says that about only 10% of the records that they have cross over on Ancestry. So, you need to be turning over every rock, which is more about the reasonably exhaustive research that we're going to talk about soon. So if you're using Family Search, jump on the chat right now and just, yes, I'm using FS for Family Search, maybe if it makes it easy. I would be interested to know, because if you're not, you should be. Okay. So let's talk about reasonably exhaustive research. So this is part of the genealogical proof standard. So as we are examining our ancestors, really what we're doing, yes, I'm using both. Thank you. Yep. Good. Mexico City, welcome. So I'm suggesting that you should really start, this is the way I do this, if you are just floundering around in Ancestry or whatever software you're using and just chasing hints, I would suggest you stop doing that. And here's why. You will go further faster, as my motto is always saying, if you design a research question, and we've talked about this before, and then start thinking about the genealogical proof standard, which I'm not going to go into all of the elements of the genealogical. I'll briefly recap them, but then we're going to really talk about reasonably exhaustive research. So the genealogical proof standard is basically this. So the GPS, let me say that if you don't have this book, you probably should. This is put out by the Board for Certification of Genealogists. It's a great little book. It's in its second edition now. The first edition was updated to the second edition, including, because they wanted to include some information about DNA. So great little book. There is a link for that in the show notes as well. It is about $13, I think, on Amazon. That is, full disclosure, an affiliate link for me. It doesn't cost you anything if you're going to pick up that book, but it certainly sends probably a nickel, maybe, my way. Anyway, so the GPS. The GPS really is comprised of about 5 elements: reasonably exhaustive research, accurate source citations, correlation of evidence, resolving those conflicts, and writing a sound conclusion. That's the brief 5 components of the genealogical proof standard. And you really want to try and prove, using the GPS, every link along the way as you're going back, starting with yourself. Of course, if you know your parents, that's, but if you're going back now, you're starting to get into your great-grandparents and such, you want to prove these links so that you know that your tree is sound. And by the way, if you're using Ancestry, they have those new tags. I use verified if I have proven, or I know from personal experience because I knew my grandfather, right? I can verify as I go back, or I've used the genealogical proof standard as I go back. I'm hitting verified using those tags on Ancestry. I love those new tags. They're also customizable. I do have another episode about that. And again, it's in the playlist that I threw out there before. Family Search, My Heritage. Oh my gosh, Deb, that's right. You use a lot of different software. And One Sassy Crafter, if I remember correctly, your name is Linda. So thank you so much. I'm glad you have the book, because it really, and it's a fast read. It's a little tiny thing, but it really is trying to get everybody on the same page as far as proving your ancestry. Okay, so now let's get to the part about reasonably exhaustive research. Okay, so the proof standard, I'm going to read just to give you a brief explanation. On page 85 of this book, it says, this is the glossary, the definition of reasonably exhaustive research. It says a genealogical proof standard component, this is the first component of the GPS, right? It requiring research thorough enough to meet the 5 criteria. A, yield at least 2 sources of independent information, items agreeing directly or indirectly to the research question that it answers. So this is why I was saying it really starts with the research question. So if you're trying to find who your great-grandfather is on your maternal side, a specific person, you're trying to say, who is the father of this person? That's your research question. And so now you're trying to come up with two sources. It says independent information, independent of each other, right? Agreeing directly or indirectly on a research question's answer. Okay, that's item number one. Item number two, covers sources competent genealogists would examine to answer the same research question. So that's basically the records that we typically would use to help answer those questions. Number three, provide at least some primary information and direct, indirect, or negative evidence from at least one original record. Okay, so just to recap what direct, indirect, and negative evidence is, for those who might not know. Well, first of all, primary evidence is the primary source. Like, it's the original source. It's not a copy. It's not an index. The primary source is the original source. So direct evidence is going to be if you're trying to say find the specific great grandfather, and you're saying, let's say you have a marriage certificate, and on the marriage certificate sometimes it lists the parents, right? So maybe it says the groom's father is, and it labels him, but you're trying to find who that father is. That would be direct evidence. But let's say it's not on that marriage certificate, but maybe this grandfather that you have has a sister, and on her marriage certificate it labels who the father is. So that's kind of indirect evidence, right? Because you've proven that this guy has a sister, but on her marriage certificate it says her father is this. That doesn't mean that they have the same father, though. So question everything, as I always say. So let me jump back in here for a minute. Number four, replace, where possible, relevant authored narratives, derivative records, and information that is secondary or undetermined. So derivative is simply a secondary source or secondary piece of evidence. So it's basically saying whenever possible to try and find primary evidence for that first. And then the last one is yield, where possible, data from sources that indexes the database, identify as potentially relevant. So basically other records, indexes, and sources that are relevant to answering the research question. So long story short, you're turning over every rock. So here's the thing about that, because I used to think years ago, I'm like, oh, I want to create a checklist. I want to create a checklist so that I can go down and go, yep, I look for that. Yep, I look for that. Or birthplace, birth date, marriage place, marriage. I wanted to be able to have this list that basically helped me check off everything. Yes, I've looked everywhere. Okay, I've done. I've reasonably exhausted that list. That's kind of impossible to do, because if you think about it, it's really dependent on the ancestor's place and time in history. And so it could be that you're researching somebody in the early 1800s. Well, vital records didn't really exist back then. You might be able to find some marriage records back that far. It just depends on where you are, what country you're in, what state you're in, what county you're in, whether you're in the city. I mean, it just kind of depends on the place and time. So there's no easy answer or easy checklist to go through. Of course, you want to try and get a lot of the major events throughout a person's lifetime. But one of the things that I like to do too, and I talk about this a lot, and this is kind of a two-phase thing that I do. I will search on these various sources online and in person when I can, the surname and all the records that are typical and all the hints, and then go through the catalog on Ancestry and Family Search and try and search differently. But so I search by surname and by person, but I also search geographically because it makes you think differently. So think about that for a minute. So if you go, okay, I've kind of dug around and I can't find exactly what I'm looking for, but think, okay, I'm in the United States. This person was in the United States. What federal records are out there? let me think about it on a federal level. So have I, exhausted the research for all the federal records that could fit the scenario or the research question, and it could be census records and military records and all that. But then come down to the state level, or depending on where you are in the world, the country, the region, right? What kind of regional records are there? And here in the United States, that might be a state record. So then think, well, have I gone to the state archives? Have I looked on the state level? Okay. Have I looked on the county level? Have I looked at the town level, whether it's a city or a town? Have I looked at the local? Is there a genealogical society in the area? Boy, these guys love to save history. That's kind of what a lot of the genealogical and historical societies do, right? So have you looked all the way down? And then as you find more evidence, you might want to go back out again. So you found more evidence, you found more details about your ancestor. Now go back out to the federal, the state, the region, the town, the museum, whatever is local in that area, and see what you can find. Also, another tip, make sure you're checking Facebook for genealogy societies, interest groups in that area. Facebook has a ton of genealogy, and that kind of helps you get to the local level too, because you might find people that are in that area if you are not. So that is kind of my take on the genealogical proof standard in a nutshell. When you're trying to find, especially when you're coming into areas where it's really hard to find records, you're in a rural town, you're starting to get back in time when it's getting harder and harder. And then kind of think outside that box as well. Have I found all the newspapers? Are there church records? Where are those church records? What religion were they? Did they change religions? I mean, you kind of have to think outside the box. And this is some of what we were talking about on the Insiders group the other day, is we're all kind of helping each other brainstorm how, some ideas, because, it really helps to brainstorm with somebody because you can't really think of it all. So I'm curious to know in the chat window if you are practicing the genealogical proof standard and or reasonably exhaustive research, if you think you're hitting it and you're doing an effective job, just a yes or no on the GPS in the chat window. I'd love to see what you guys are doing. I'm going to take a break here and just say hello to a couple people. Denise, welcome. She says she's using Family Search. Sorry, I'm trying to look around the camera. Stacy, welcome. And Kay, yes, she says. All right, so I'm going to talk real quick here about a couple books that I'm eventually going to get this tab on my website, genealogytv.org. I'm eventually going to put a tab for my favorite books, because the list keeps growing, and I think these people that spend a lot of time creating these resources for us deserve a shout out. And so there's a couple shout outs here. This one is the DNA Family Tree Guide to DNA Testing and Genetic Genealogy. This is by Blaine Bettinger. Oh my gosh. If you are not really hip on the DNA stuff, check this book out, because it is really good at explaining, kind of in layman's terms, the differences between the autosomal DNA and what Ancestry does, what Y-DNA, family tree DNA. I mean, it talks about mitochondrial DNA and how best to use those tools to help you with your family research, because I get the same question a lot. Which test should I take? And every genealogist I know that gets asked that question, we all say the same thing. It depends on what you're trying to do. So if you are just curious and you just want to find out, then I would suggest an autosomal DNA test at any of the companies that do autosomal DNA. Ancestry, that's the only one that they do. And Ancestry now is like 15 million test takers. So your odds of getting a cousin match is greater probably there, but you don't have to do Ancestry DNA because you can download the raw data and go to any other service you want. So we just did an episode a couple weeks ago about MyHeritage, and they talk about doing DNA as well. The other book review, this is one I'm working on right now. I'm almost done with this book. I love this book. I love this book. So this is Genealogy in the Law, and it is it says the guide to legal sources for family historians, and it's put out by Kay and William Freelick, and it is published by the National Genealogical Society. And I have to say, this is actually a workbook. It is it goes chapter by chapter, and my point with this is you need to understand the law in the area in which you're researching for your ancestors. For example, if you are I'm in North Carolina, and the laws change throughout time about a woman's inheritance when her husband dies. And, sometimes they get a third of the property. As you go back in time, it might be that the eldest son gets all of the property. It just depends on the time. So understanding the law at the time really can help you chase your ancestors from a legal standpoint. You got land, you got laws about land and criminal behavior and inheritance laws and all that. That's really going to affect your ancestry. So if you have any questions, by the way, you can throw them in the chat window. Just put #Q before your question, just so that I can spot them easily. Okay, so new coming up on Genealogy TV. So just released last week was an episode about MyHeritage, and that information is for those who are watching on the replay, is on in the comment sections, but I'll stick this in the chat window as well. It's important to probably watch that, because I was surprised. I had not done much work on MyHeritage, and it was an eye-opener for me, especially if you're doing overseas research. They have a lot of records for the UK and other areas. Definitely worth watching. And if you're trying to cast a wider net on the DNA thing, they also have a DNA thing, and Daniel Horowitz so kindly did the interview for MyHeritage, because I needed it from the expert, right? And so he was good to tell us all about what it costs, what you can do for free on there, and such. So yesterday, I just came out with one for French Canadian research. If you have any inkling that you might have some French Canadian research, in fact, I should have typed that in here. Let's back up here. French Canadian research with Margaret Fortier. Hang on one second. I'm just going to put this in the chat window for everybody in case you want to see that one too. And so that was really cool. Margaret Fortier is a certified genealogist, and she has a wealth of information, not only for French Canadian, but she did an episode on immigration and naturalization with us, and she did Italian research. We're talking about doing some more here in the future. So that came out yesterday, if you want to see that one. Also coming out on Tuesday. So I'm going to talk about, and this is because of questions that I'm getting a lot of questions about, is how to merge two people on Ancestry. There's several people who have mentioned to me that they had duplicate people in their tree, and they were a little afraid to, they were a little chicken to merge those people. So I'm going to show them how to do that, and also how to avoid getting duplicates in the first place. So that's going to come out this coming Tuesday on Tiny Tip Tuesday. I'm going to be editing that over the weekend. And then I am going to be doing a photo restoration. Deb, who is on the call here right now, she kindly shared with me a photograph that I'm going to try and restore. This is a cool photograph. I have to say, this is one of the coolest old photographs I've ever seen, without restoring it at all. just looking at it tells a story. And so I'm looking forward to doing that. Deb's going to give us a little history about the family, and while I restore that photograph. So I'm really looking forward to that. So anyway, I'm going to grab a sip of water here. Okay, so I don't see any questions popping in that I need to worry about offhand, so we're good there. Okay, we have some winners to talk about from the Salt Lake Institute of Genealogy contest that I've been running over the last month or so. And so just a quick recap about the Salt Lake Institute of Genealogy. If you're not familiar with it, they are now doing a virtual course this fall. I believe registration is opening today for both, I think, no, it's on the 15th, excuse me. Let me double check while I've got you here. Registration opens July 13th for SLIG 2020. That's the in-person institute in Salt Lake City. I have been to SLIG. It is fun. It is awesome. And if you're not familiar with it, it is a week-long course. You pick the course you want, and you study that one subject for a whole week. So it's a deep dive, worth the effort, worth the time. And it's so much fun because you're in Salt Lake City and you're right down the street from the Family History Library, which was absolutely worth my effort last time because I was able to break through a brick wall while I was there. So that was really cool. But the virtual conference, you can stay at home and study. That is coming up this fall. And I believe registration for that is also, let me double check that. That is also opening. Is that today? Registration is open for that. So you can jump over there. So there's my recap on Salt Lake Institute of Genealogy. And for the professionals out there, they do have the academy that follows SLIG 2020 in January. It's the exact week after the normal institute in January. So that's the SLIG 2020 is the second week in January, and the Academy for Professionals is the third week in January. So all of that is open at sligacademy.uga, genealogy.org for those who want to join the Academy. And so the winners, let's talk about that. Here we go. The winners for the contest. Now this was for a gift certificate for two winners, $50 gift card to the SLIG store. And before I jump into that, I'm going to see what questions are here. What have we got here? Adoptions, 1800s, no records, how to research. That is a question. Let me address that one in just a second. And one sassy crafter says, I wish I could go to one of those. You could do the virtual if you're interested, that you can stay at home and do all the studying you want. All right, so the winners are, you ready? Leslie Carney and Carrie Smith. Congratulations. You are the winners of the $50 gift certificate to the SLIG store. One of us, either myself or probably Peg from the Salt Lake Institute of Genealogy, will be getting up with you over the weekend at the email address that you provided. Woo! Congratulations, winner, she said. Yes. So true, so true. All right. I am going to try and address this one question. So adoptions in the 1800s, no records, how to research. Well, the 1800s are recent enough that I would start with DNA. So if you have taken a DNA test, or the descendants of who you are trying to research, I would go there, Stephanie. And I have solved adoption cases and missing parentage situations before, and DNA certainly is helpful. And there is an episode that I did on that. It's called Strategies the Pros Use, DNA Strategies the Pros Use. If you look for that in the videos on this YouTube channel, it talks a little bit about how to do that. And how to use DNA to help find missing parentage. And so I have done that already. I have done the DNA thing. So watch that episode because it really helps you. It talks about how to connect the dots. So you have taken a DNA test and you're finding cousin matches. How do you connect those dots? And also, if you have any siblings or other descendants, other cousins, you want to find all of those cousin matches and start working your way up the tree, basically. And you have to research the cousins too. And so sometimes there's a technique that Blaine Bettinger has talked about also, where you can do what's called a quick and dirty tree. And I have done this. It works pretty well. But the idea is that instead of trying to prove every link, and it takes forever, you kind of put together a quick and dirty tree. And you can also label that as a hypothesis in your tree if it's visual for everybody. Otherwise, I recommend that you keep Ancestry doesn't like you having separate trees. They believe in one tree. I have done this 2 different ways. I have created people as a hypothesis in my tree and label them that way so that people that are visiting my tree know this guy's not proven. He's unverified. So you can put a couple different tags in there, but I'm putting him there as a potential father for somebody so that I get the hints and the search engine working for me. And so that's why you might want to do it that way. On the other hand, when I was working on a client case, I totally built a separate tree. I kept it private because I was totally working on unproven documentation, and I didn't want people to automatically import information that I was putting on there because I wanted to make sure that I had it right before I made it public. And so once you kind of create this quick and dirty tree, and then you go, okay, I think I've connected the dots. Then you go back and you prove every link through the GPS standard that we've been talking about here today and the reasonably exhaustive research method. So hang on one second. Judy asks, why did the DNA, I did a DNA test, and so has my great niece. She is showing up as a second cousin. Why? Without looking at further details, I couldn't tell you, but here's what you want to do. Blaine Bettinger puts out if you go to the Genetic Genealogist, I think it's the geneticgenealogist.com. Let me grab that real quick. The geneticgenealogist.com. He has the shared Centimorgan project. And so a niece and a second cousin might be within that range. And so what you want to do is you want to look at that chart. I'm going to stick that right here. The Genetic Genealogist. Okay, so Blaine Bettinger did this, and this guy's genius. So what he did was he went and he sampled a lot of us, right? He said, share your relationships in the centimorgans that you have in common with these various relationships. And he created a range. So each relationship, he made a chart basically. And so if you have a range of, say, 300 centimorgans to 600 centimorgans, or you're looking at, let me back up. If you're looking at your tree, your DNA information, and it says you have 265 centimorgans in common with this person, go look at his chart because it'll tell you all the possibilities. Hi from Vancouver, welcome. So you can then look at the range. Well, it could be a niece, it could be a second cousin, it could be a half brother, it could be, there's a lot of different possibilities. So you want to look at that chart because it's really helpful. I think it's DNA Painter also has where you can actually type in the centimorgans, and it gives you all the different possibilities as well. So I hope that helps. Let me see if there's any other questions here. My little chat window is hiding over here in the wrong place. Let's see. No range for a great niece or nephews. Yeah, it's in there. You got to dig for it, though. You know what? It might be that, Judy, it might be that there is a coaching session in your future. You might want to consider that. But the centimorgans, I'm pretty sure it's DNA Painter. If you go over there and let me look that up real quick. DNA Painter. they have a, somewhere in their tools, I think it is, that they have a centimorgan tool where you can type in the centimorgans. Yeah, I found it. Here it is. Control C. I'm going to stick this in the chat window as well. Centimorgans. Bear with me just for a second. There you go. All right. Well, check that out too. All right. Well, I think at this point I have taken up plenty of your time. We are a little bit over what I was planning on doing. If you like that, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. It really helps me out. I know it doesn't cost you a dime, but it certainly helps me out. And, you know, if you want to help support the channel, you certainly can do so with the super chat right here, right now, or you can jump over to patreon.com/Genealogy TV. So don't forget, there's a newsletter. I send that out once a week. Occasionally I'll send it out more than that, but you know, I try not to intrude on your privacy too much with obnoxious emails. Love all your videos, Connie. Excellent help to anyone working on their family tree. Thank you, Terry. I really appreciate that. And thank you, Judy. I'm trying to see if I made sure I got everybody, but I think I did. And boy, we had a record number on here today, 58 people. Thank you so much. Don't forget, there's also, for those who are using Ancestry, there's the Ancestry.com playlist that I have in the show notes as well. And, well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your family search day. Talk to you later.